Is Brazil's iGaming playbook a jackpot or a gamble?
So thanks very much. Appreciate you guys being here, etc. We're going to have a panel for 25 minutes talking about the challenges of Brazil. Of course, everybody knows. Most of you are here already for a particular purpose, but others basically are picking up, let's say, some knowledge of what they would like to know. I have an expert panel here that basically knows a lot about the risks and, let's say, the different things that we need to take in consideration. So this is going to give you a more high-level overview, quite important with regards to making sure that you think of these issues while you're starting to operate here, or basically even supply, let's say, your products into this market. Thank you very much for all being here, etc. Gabriel. Do an introduction. My name is Harmen Brenninkmeijer. I run a company called NYCE. We're publicly listed in the UK. And basically we represent about 45 plus products around the iGaming and land-based industry worldwide. What I'd like to do now is do an introduction of, let's say, my panel members, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Starting from me, right? Oh, so thank you, Harmen. Really appreciate it. Thank you, my fellow panelists. Thanks for that. And of course, thanks the Sigma team for bringing us together. It's a real pleasure. So my name is Gabriel Quiliconi, founder of Quiliconi Consulting. Basically, I help companies to tackle different challenges regarding regulatory challenges in highly regulated sectors. Basically, I help them to get ready for regulatory change, to make better decisions, and also manage better risks for their business. I have a legal and public affairs background, and today my plan is to bring how governance could be one best solution for companies in which they could be better planning in terms of strategy to survive in this really hard environment.
Thanks very much. Laura, please.
Thank you very much, Harmen, and I would like to thank you, Sigma, for this opportunity. I'm Laura. I'm 25 years experienced lawyer dealing with dispute resolution. Now I am the position of Director for Consumer Affairs at BetBoom. BetBoom is one of the operators that was licensed in Brazil, and I'm handling all the issues regarding consumers and customer claims.
Dario.
Hello team, my name is Dario. I'm the head of commercial for SOFTSWISS in Latin America. We've got different verticals, all for the operator side. So thanks very much.
Great, so Brazil is a bit unusual. We have a lot of licenses being awarded, and we have a lot of different people that are going to be active. Under one license you can have, as you know, 3 different brands. What is quite interesting is basically where do you start and what are the major issues that you need to consider with regards to the regulatory environment, but not just the regulatory environment, because Brazil is something that's, in all honesty, never totally stable. So what are the risks that you really need to consider? So let me start with Gabriel. Really quick, what are the risks that people have to consider? And then I move it over to Laura, where you basically say, from a distance, what is it that you think you should tell the foreign operators?
Great. If I have to choose one risk, the major risk would be a regulatory risk. I think here in Brazil we have a highly regulated sector and things are changing fast, right? We have a new regulatory framework, okay, starting from 1st of January this year, but it's about to change, okay, and again, because it's part of a part of a compromise from the government to have better regulations. I think what I would recommend for operators and providers in Brazil is try to anticipate change in terms of regulation. Okay, you cannot eliminate uncertainty, but if you are better prepared, you can play much better.
But let's be specific. How do you prepare?
Oh, you have several ways of doing this. I think the most important thing is to have a really strong governance structure internally, right? If you have the right structure, you can be fully prepared for change. I can give you an example. If you invite legal and compliance to be part of the product discussion, okay, since the beginning, that would be the best solution when you are under a heavy attack or under a crisis. Okay. If you already have legal and compliance, part of the team, the solution will come out really fast than ever.
Well, I think that's a good opener for Laura, right? Because that's exactly the department you're heading, right?
Yeah. My concern in Brazil is another one. You have to, the operators that are entering our market should have a deep knowledge of our judiciary system. It's very complex, it's very pro-consumers, and we were discussing about that, and it's very accessible to bring a lawsuit here in Brazil, because in most of the cases you don't pay court fees, and it's very cheap to bring a lawsuit in Brazil. So if the company is aware of the situation, it must struggle the operation.
Okay, well, cheap in lawsuits. Okay, that's a new one for me. So, you already frightened me, being in this market then and basically saying, okay, what can we expect? So, Dario, what are some of the experiences on the supply side that you say is different that people really have to contemplate?
Yeah, definitely there was a big change for all of us, mainly on certifying different products, new experiences, getting between customers and ourselves, for example, being the game aggregator, and then having a new thing that's called branded reports that has to be given to each one of them. So it was
a little bit closer, Dario.
Sorry, it was for everyone. It was a new challenge for everyone to look into and go and see what's happening, right? Nobody had timings, everything went, when you need everything to go flawless, everyone was saying, hey, and it didn't have 24 hours. Days had more, right? And we need to do it fast.
Right. But Brazil is quite bureaucratic, right? So what are the issues that I need to start considering when, for example, I start operating? You say, okay, be prepared. Have, for example, the legal compliance already involved in product development or in the product areas. That's quite a task, because in all honesty, in iGaming, etc., we're fast, right? We want to, really move, and we want to get campaigns out. We have to react to the competition. We have to make sure that we stay ahead of, let's say, the new trends. We got to take product in. We take a lot of product in, right? We have a game here, a game there. We have, different initiatives that we're taking. We have, the bonuses, the affiliation, let's say, the retention. So how am I going to consider all of that with compliance, legal, which is way on the other side, being very slow? How is that going to work?
Oh, that's a really good question. I can mention, for example, last year was a really special year because all companies were getting prepared for licensing, right? I think all of them are fully focused on a normal checklist, right, in terms of compliance. But we are in a new stage right now. So the majority of companies are already licensed, right? So I think the concerns will change from compliance to a more strategic thing. And as I mentioned, I'm sorry for insisting on that, but governance is the key, especially on a market where we have the government, for example, setting the number of the directors that a company should have. All of them are only applying as the minimum, right? So checking the ordinance and say, well, I'm in full compliance. Yeah. And I think we are entering in a new era. We need to have better structure in terms of teams, in terms of knowledge. I think it probably, if a company don't pay attention to this, probably it will be a signal of a possible failure in a near future in a highly not regulated market, but also really competitive market as Brazil.
Okay. So Laura, how are you going to make sure that your company is going to stay on top? Because you have 80 competitors. Most markets where you have a lot of competition initially, either you have a lot of consolidation quite quickly. The government does not like to deal with 80 companies. They never have, never will. So what they like is they like to, start becoming very tough on companies that don't even follow the basic guidelines. They get taken out and then they go to the next level until they have, the top 20 that they like to deal with or so. How are you going to protect yourself and how are you going to, expand?
Yeah. It's almost a situation that we are changing the four wheels of the car with the car running.
Right.
And we try to be the more proactive as possible, and we have a willingness to be dynamic and to adapt to the new regulations. We try to anticipate for the new regulations, for the new rules, and the more we can work on preventively, it works better than being reactive to the situations.
Right. So, Dario, what advice would you give to anybody coming into this market to basically say, is this the market that you really have to be in? And if you're in here, what are the minimum, conditions that you need to fulfill, especially on the supply side? So for example, when you go back and you report back into, your, extremely large, company and basically say, oh, this is different in Brazil, this is different in Brazil. They will say, oh, it's different in Estonia, it's different in, Belarus, it's different in, wherever they're active.
Well,
how do you
yeah, one of the big
counteract?
challenges was be a Latin American, right? So I'm born in Buenos Aires, the company's from Europe, and we need to be a localized company. So we need to adapt to Brazilians or whatever the market is, right? So one of the things was have account managers speaking the same body language, speaking the same language. So that's one of the main things, right? And another thing is adapting to the time frame and to the time of, in this case, -3 of Latin America or Brazil, Buenos Aires, and many other countries. So having that and having the ability of having the help desk and all that speaking the same language is the most important thing.
Right. So,
If I may add something, that's something I am always discussing with the company, the necessity of tropicalizing the term is customize, tropicalize the operation to the Brazilian market. We are different from Latin America, and of course the Argentinian are different from the Brazilian. Our capital is not Buenos Aires. And of course, the operators, the operations in Europe works different in Brazil, and works certainly different in Argentina and the rest of Latin America.
Okay, let's be specific. In what way?
To tropicalize it, I do agree with that when he said that having local lawyers, a local
Okay,
people.
but that's pretty standard. What about very specific things related to, for example, the way you operate? Campaigns. Okay, fine, that's one thing. But let's talk about general affiliation. Is that the same way that's being done around the world, or is that very different? The way people gamble, the amount they gamble. What are some of the specifics?
Well, I understand that most of the people, and there are research on that, showing that most of the people that are the users, the bettors, are regular people that spend not a huge money on that. Betting in Brazil is becoming a part of an entertainment for people in general. They are seeing this as an entertainment program.
Right.
Right. People are not gambling, they use it as an entertainment, as you said. Right?
Okay.
It's not to win money, but as an entertainment. So in Latin America, all the sports and everything is very, very popular. And mainly here in Brazil, soccer and all that is amazing.
So does that mean that the average Brazilian will switch faster and more to different operators versus in many other countries where people have a lot of loyalty?
Yes, I believe yes. That they
Because
have.
that could make a big difference on the consolidation, on let's say the development of the market.
Exactly. That's going to be more on the user experience, on the unique experience that the operators can give the players, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And Harmen, it's important to highlight as well that Brazilians are considered as well known as early adopters of technology.
Right.
So considering that this market, it's 100% technological one, that's why Brazilians are so obsessed about having 10 different operators, 10 different apps installed.
So does that also mean they jump to a new game faster? They want to try new things?
Probably.
That's an interesting one, okay? Because the experience is in most of the world where people stay very much within certain games, and as a result, once you have the first mover advantage, if you fall outside of that, you're pretty much done. It's very difficult to come as a latecomer. No matter if it is a Colombia, or if it is the United States, or if it is in England, it is very difficult to find your niche. So, likely, this is positive to many people, right? Many operators. If you have 80 plus operators, like, okay, I still have a chance, right?
Oh yeah, and we cannot forget that we have many Brazilians inside Brazil, right? This is another challenge for operators, of course, because you need to have a full understanding of different regions, not only Brazil, right? So I think this is probably one of the most difficult questions, and that's why this is terrifying operators when they need to discuss different license, for example, for a state level license. Yeah. This become like a nightmare because you need to be in compliance with different regulations from different states. Correct. And this is much more complex for anyone here.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, some of the states are like countries, right? So it depends how you look at it. So it's probably definitely still worth it. So who's going to be? Are we going to see a couple of very big winners that we see today? Are they going to? Are they going to keep the leading position, or are we going to see, people move up and a lot of changes? Is this going to be a car race in which we have a lot of, different people jumping, let's say different positions, or are we going to see a typical Formula One where everybody is going to be,
I think
based on the starting?
This is a really good question, Harmen, especially because no one expected the number of operators licensed right now. Okay, this is totally unexpected, even for the government side. So we never know. Of course, we are going to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions, of course, right? But it's really hard to predict what would be the final and, best number of operators, right? Some specialists are saying that 5 to 10 in 5 years, but again, it's full speculation, right? I will only say that no matter, okay, it's a jackpot, okay? Everyone is looking for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Every operator wants to succeed in this market, but they need to be prepared. Otherwise, it would be a failure.
So Laura, understanding, let's say, the regulated area now, knowing that there are still a lot of people active in the gray area, how are you going to compete? And the judiciary is quite strong here. They're going to enforce a lot of things on you. So what is... I mean, in all honesty, forget about the fact that you have to pay tax. Think about all the other issues that come around to, fulfilling, the legal requirements against the gray market that can do whatever it wants.
Yeah. Gabriel said that he believes that this is a jackpot, but I do believe that this may be a gamble for many operators, because we not only have the judiciary system, as I said, but we have also to see the willingness and the how fast can the operators can adapt themselves to new regulations and to new rules. I don't know, apart from these 80 operators already licensed, who is going to survive? Just the best will survive.
Right. So how are you going to sell that internally?
Hiring the best you can.
Pressure is on. So how is the market going to look like 3 years from now?
It's gonna, on my end, last 2 years I've been here in Brazil, mainly 95%, and I have all my coins into Brazil, right? So Brazil is not only a country, it's a continent, right? It's very big. Now the landscape is clear for many international companies, and it's gonna be a big place to do business, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
companies need to be prepared, as we spoke before, that having very good lawyers, very good team in locally, right?
Right.
To be able to do a long process, and it's going to be incredible.
We've already seen in a lot of countries a lot of challenges related to advertising, related to what's allowed, what's not allowed, what influencers can do, what many other people can do. What are your predictions, Gabriel and Laura, on let's say, what is the government, going to look at, and how can people prepare themselves for those specific actions?
Oh, that's a really good question. Again, thank you. I think we can see right now a strong movement to somehow prohibit all kinds of advertising in our sector. And I know this is a really complicated thing. It's really complex.
Yeah.
And I know that probably that's the worst outcome, right? But what I can say that we have a lot of work to do in terms of awareness, to bring more understanding and knowledge regarding the sector, what the sector could bring to the community, to the population. Otherwise, we would be in trouble. But at the end of the day, it's important to mention that I came from tobacco sector, where every advertising is already prohibited, and we survive it, right?
Yeah. Well, fair enough. But at the same token, I'm like, Brazil is not a. It's not a market where you can, build a very consistent, call it approach or plan to basically say this is how it's going to develop. So Laura, I'm very interested in how your company is going to. How are you selling it internally in order to basically say this is what we're going to do over the next, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
I believe that the principal pillars are already constructed. We have ordinances about dealing with advertising and saying what can be done and what cannot be done. And we have our national advertising agency that already published an action saying what can be advertised or not. So it's important for the companies to take a deep look on that, on the ordinances and the recommendations made by CONAR.
Is there anybody in the audience that maybe wants to ask a question? If so, please, put up your hand and, we'll get to it. Otherwise, I'll just continue. What I keep on feeling about, Brazil is hugely exciting for the number of people. People live day by day. The Brazilian is not known for planning his next 5 years, 10 years, how he's gonna do whatever he's doing. I was frightening to hear about let's say the fact that a lot of people listen to the influencers more than they read newspapers or than they follow the news on the channels, or for that matter, have trust in, let's say, journalists. Forget about having trust in your politicians, which is really important as well. So that makes it extremely difficult to basically say, okay, I'm here, I'm in Brazil, I am going to really build, a plan in order to see my company grow. I mean, I'm just flabbergasted at overcoming that difficulty, trying to imagine as to how I go back home. So you deal with most of the operators. How do you see the operators preparing themselves in this environment?
There's many operators going in different directions, not only with influencers, but also with sponsoring teams. It's all about, being there, right? Either on television or in media, Instagram, TikTok. It's going to be a big challenge, and maybe one influencer is one day with the one company and the next day they are with another company that comes and puts more money, right? So it's based on who puts more on the table, but it's incredible the power the influencers have. It's worldwide, but in Brazil, it's amazing.
Okay. So lots of challenges. This question would be running out of time, basically. Please approach us anytime after if you have some specific issues you would like to address where we can help you with. Basically what we understood is that, okay, lawsuits are cheap. The people are quite stubborn. The people are basically following influencers, etc. It makes it into a very challenging environment. You have a government that basically jumps based on the enormous power of the influencers and of the people in general, and of, let's say, how the market is going to react. The operators really need to be at their best. So looking at that, is it a gamble or a jackpot? I would call it a very big gamble. Gabriel, last word. Laura?
I would say if it's a jackpot or a gamble, I would say that it depends on the company, on the operator. It depends on how organized they are inside their own walls. So my final message would be, if you are not certain about what to do, count with local partners, as Dario mentioned, because we are experts in Brazil. We know exactly what to do in different sectors, in different scenarios. So I think this is my final message.
Thank you very much. Be very organized. Laura?
I would like to say that it's a jackpot, but as we have seen, that most of the operators are always betting with the market. So for me, it's a gamble, and just the best will survive to that.
Okay, great. Dario?
In my opinion, I would say it's a gamble. People know where they want to go. There are going to be different ways to go in that direction. It's a daily basis that needs to be changed on marketing teams and things, and how to approach new customers. And the retention here is going to be a very specific point of view, right?
Right, exactly. It's going to be challenging.
Challenging.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So, as the foreigners, we say it's a gamble. As the locals, we say we believe it's going to be a jackpot. This is great closure. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.